Awesome. We are now live. So we'll just wait for a few people and then we'll get started.
Sweet.
Awesome.
But how's your day been?
Not too bad, actually. Went to the gym. It's been a bit quiet, though, because obviously, like, lockdown's still kind of active here. But, like, just like I missed the gym for so long.
Yeah.
And, just like, obviously, YouTubing as well. Today I didn't really do a lot. So, this is, like, first YouTube thing I'm pretty much doing. Oh, we have someone who's joined.
It's probably it's Marvel Planet.
Oh, Marvel Planet. Oh, you remember this guy? I think he followed you on Instagram.
I do. Yeah, he told me he followed me. He's a friend of you, so I was like, cool, sweet. I followed him
through Instagram. Awesome. So I might as well just start. So I know Marvel Planet's only going here right now. But what's up, everyone? Thank you for joining. So today I have a special guest. I have CertainVids with me on the channel, and we are gonna go through all the Spider-Man films and tier list each single one. And obviously, Certain's not sure about where I'm going to rank certain Spider-Man films, so he's obviously intrigued by that. So
I don't know what his list is.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows my list, but I did change it around.
You're quite opinionated on the Spider-Man stuff, so like, I can imagine.
I just change it like a lot, so that's interesting. So I want to see what your list is because I don't know what it is.
Of course. Okay, so how do we? Can you see my browser?
No. Well, you're gonna have to click. There's a share screen at the bottom. When you click that, I should be able to.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm so new to this. You can clearly tell.
You get used to it. It's pretty easy to work around.
Application window.
They've made it pretty. They've made it pretty a pretty nice layout.
You can see it now?
All right. Yeah, it's just reloading. All right, there we go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the tier list. So we've obviously got all the Spider-Man films here. So we've got Spider-Man 1.
Spider-Man 1.
So Certain, where do you think we'll put Spider-Man 1?
If it's just up to me, I'm putting it in the S tier. I think it's really, really good. It still holds up. Maybe CGI a little bit, but I think it's a great, fantastic film, and probably one of my all-time favorites.
You know what? I totally agree with you because this is the Spider-Man film that got everyone fully hooked on Spider-Man. Like, even if you were, fan of the films afterwards or the comics, no matter what it was, the games. This started a lot. This is like a cult classic, if you like, because it's
pretty much
the start of something huge. So yeah, I'm not even going to hesitate, and we're going to put this on S tier together because that's just you got to put it. You got to give it the respect.
You just gotta have to. And I think it's weird because I see nowadays a lot of people kind of hating on this film, kind of not maybe not disrespecting it, but like putting it. So a lot of people put it low on their rankings. Some people put it towards the bottom, and I don't understand the criticisms associated with it. I think it's still great. So
I think a lot of the criticisms are just. I think people are. I think they're overthinking it. Like I think they don't really feel the. They don't really appreciate what's there. They're kind of just moaning about things that don't really need to come to light. Like, I just think some of the excuses I've heard are ridiculous. Like, just
I've heard stuff like how he doesn't quip when he does. He just doesn't quip that much. Whereas there are situations where it would be kind of unfitting for him to quip. So it's a good balance. I've heard the organic web shooters being used as an argument. How I saw this one where Homecoming is automatically better than all three of these films because he's using web shooters. And
oh my god!
Number one, web shooters don't translate to better film. And then number two.
Oh my god.
And then the second thing is like you don't have to be like really accurate at all. I mean, these films are pretty accurate, but like for the most part. But I mean, I think Raimi like understands this character pretty much inside and out, because when he was explaining why he didn't go with web shooters, he was like, Peter Parker is supposed to be this relatable kid, and if you make him so smart to the point where he can just design like this technology that is just like kind of revolutionary in a way, with like this compact size webbing and all these cartridges, and you can shoot and it can hold an entire person at these extreme speeds and all of that. Like that kind of takes it to another level, and you can't really relate to him anymore. So I totally agree with that, and I think what they did was smart for the film they were making. So I love it. I can quote the entire thing, so it's pretty near and dear to my heart.
I think the entire way they introduced him in this film was just like, it couldn't have been done any better. Personally, like I think there was great balance and everything. Like this Spider-Man still in high school, but he's still quite a he's very, what's the word, he's Peter Parker, but as soon as he becomes Spider-Man, like he's realizing he's got this crazy power that's come out of nowhere, and like everything happens naturally. It's like he realizes there could be people in danger, and I've got to step up now. And he's still got insecurities about himself, because Peter Parker hasn't got all the confidence in the world, like as you would assume a hero would have. But then he doesn't realize he becomes one until late in the film. And obviously this is a proper origin film, so like compared to Homecoming, they've just skipped that just because of they don't want to repeat it for the third time, which I totally get. But yeah, I mean, I don't think any Spider-Man film will have the impact like this one, just because it's like the first of it. No. Everything was done in such a way, like you still think now, Tobey Maguire's the Spidey. Which now leads us on to the sequel for Spider-Man 2. So what are your thoughts on Spider-Man 2?
Do I even have to explain myself with this film? Because I think I've made it abundantly clear. This is S tier. This is top of the list. Unbeatable. I can never see a Spider-Man story like this ever being put to screen again. I just really can't. Right. I think they pretty much, this is just like the peak of film, or not film, but like the peak of Spider-Man in film. I think you can't really get better than this. I think it's a beyond perfect film, and in my opinion, I am willing to go as far as to say it's probably my favorite comic book movie of all time. So it is at the top of the list for me, S tier all the way. So yeah.
Well, that's insane. That's actually I think Spider-Man 2 gets a lot of criticism. I think a lot of people are 50-50 on how much they like it, and that's probably the first time I've heard someone really big it up like that, which is cool, because most of the time I'm hearing not enough people give it the credit. I've heard so many people moan about the villain, like Dr. Ock saying, "Oh, blah blah blah," and all this, but it's like he's a great villain. I mean, the guy the actor that portrayed him was. I would love to see him come back.
Good.
He was great. He was so cunning when he became Doc Ock, and what he created, it posed such a threat, and Spider-Man has to stop him, and you can see how that sort of takes control of him. Like, I love how the way they portrayed Doc Ock is like Spider-Man could have gone the wrong route. Like, something he creates could make him different. But what's funny enough is I feel there's a lot of foreshadowing in this film. So the way Doc Ock loses who he is, he then that happens to Spider-Man in like Spider-Man 3, and then obviously we'll talk about Spider-Man 3 afterwards. But I noticed that little bit of foreshadowing, and I mean, this Spider-Man's obviously more developed, like you said. So he's been about, I think, 2 years in the timeline since he became Spider-Man, or quite a few years, and like, he's just more used to what he does. He gets a little bit of praise now from people in New York. Like, people know who he is. So it's cool. I like it. Like if you compare that to Homecoming, like they started Homecoming like there was a previous film to that for the MCU, if that makes sense.
I get you.
which I get. Yeah, he was in Civil War, but we still didn't get an origin. We didn't even get one little sneak peek of that of Spidey in that. I mean, that would have made sense for me personally to see it. Like, but of
Yeah,
course, it wasn't the focus.
yeah. I was
You know
like,
what? You know what? I probably will put that in S tier as well because there's a lot of great things about Spider-Man 2, and I do think it does go unseen by many. So, like another S
I
tier Spidey film.
I just don't understand because I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube talking about why Spider-Man 2 is really bad or how it sucks. One video in particular, I can't remember the person's name. I would mention it, but I don't really remember it. But the entire video was, I'll be honest, it was pretty poor in quality, if I'm being honest. Not very valid criticisms of the film.
Yeah.
It's like right off the bat, I could tell that this person is just doing this for the sake of doing this because like at the start of the video, he's like, everybody always nitpicks my favorite Spidey film, so I'm now I'm gonna nitpick theirs. So like right off the bat, I can tell you're not really serious about this. And then all these weird, I've seen people talk about how Tobey Maguire is a crybaby in these movies and he cries for no reason.
Oh my god.
And then I think about it and I'm like, okay, so cries when his uncle dies, cries when he's missing his uncle, cries when his girlfriend breaks up with him, cries when he can't support his like which part is unnecessary because I don't know which one.
All four of those things are things you would cry at because it means so much to you. So that is just whoever said that is just I mean, they've got to really rethink what they think of Spider-Man because that's clearly not adding up to what it actually is. So
yeah, and then I see a lot of hate for Mary Jane, and everybody is just crapping on her like she's just messing with Peter's emotions the entire film. And I'm like, well, you can look at it that way, but then if you put yourself in her shoes, you have to realize that she kind of just opened herself to him in the first film, and then he didn't let her in, and then when she was trying to kind of engage with him again, he still shut her out. So in her eyes, Peter is kind of a jerk. He's not really. It doesn't really make sense. Like if you don't know Peter's Spider-Man, he's a weird guy. If you don't know, like we're the audience, we know he's Spider-Man. But if you put yourself in the shoes of anybody else in the film, he's gonna seem like a strange person. Like he just runs off all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can't make it to time on anything. So I think number one, Mary Jane gets way too much hate. It's just a lot of criticism that I just don't think really add up with the film. And I also don't understand how people don't like. I'm fine if it doesn't work for you because I've seen people say how the whole him losing his powers thing doesn't work for them. Which that's your opinion. That's fine. But you can't. I've seen people say it's really dumb, and then that's it. And I'm like, okay, so which part is dumb? Because you just can't say as a criticism because that's not how it works. So it doesn't really add up because you've gotten an explanation within the film as to what's going on, and you can't just start applying real world logic to it because that's not how it's supposed to work. Like what is technically a plot hole? It's basically something that contradicts something else that's been established in the film. And something has already been established within the film in Spider-Man 2 as to why he's losing his powers. So I can understand, like, maybe like the first time you're watching it and you're just wondering, like, what's happening to his powers. Everybody did that when they first watched it. So that's fine. But once you know the reason, you can't just ignore the reason and say, this doesn't make sense when there's literally a reason in the film. So
I think some people just haven't paid attention enough to what actually happens. So I think there's a bunch of people who will jump the bandwagon with hate. So if a film gets hate, like Spider-Man 2 got a lot of hate, they'll just hate on it because they think, oh, it's the right thing. But some people are just a bit sheep. They don't really see the side. A lot of the Mary Jane hate is like just quite memeable because surely, I mean, people can't really say that. Oh, I'm not gonna like Spider-Man 2 and not like Mary Jane because she's always like that with Peter. But you could say that in the first and third film. Like, you can say it all across years. Like, if you're analyzing her character overall, fair enough. But if you're saying it in one film, like, she seems pretty consistent to me in the way she is in all the films. Like, there's obviously I mean, she does have some issues with her relationship with Peter, which we do see in the next film. But of course, yeah, she does get too much hate in this film, and
Yeah.
there's not much of a love triangle in this one with Peter, Mary Jane, and Harry.
Yeah.
Because that obviously develops in the third film. But yeah, moving on. So do we just go for Spider-Man 3, or do we just go with what's next on the list? Because Amazing Spider-Man is next, and I know you absolutely love Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, it's up to you. Whichever one you want to do first. It's either way. It's fine.
Well, as we got to the second Tobey Maguire film, we'll just go for Spider-Man 3. Right, so
All right.
where would you put Spider-Man 3 based on what you think of it?
Well, this is tough because I think it's a really. I can't say it's a good film because I acknowledge it has problems, but I really love it. So
I loved it personally.
Yeah, I love the film, but I can acknowledge there are some issues with it. So I feel like it's probably like a light A, like more so a B, but I'm willing to go
I was
A.
thinking if we're really not liking it, B, but A, I think A is best for it because I love there was just I know a lot of people say about there's like consistencies and things that didn't really. I think most likely it was there was a lot of things thrown in there, with Venom as well, and not enough for him, and he wasn't that great. I actually feel like this film gets more hate than even Spider-Man 2 for silly reasons. Like, I don't get the whole, there's too much thrown in. Like, I actually like that the Venom is in there, and, they did that quite smoothly. I mean, for me, it was fine. I didn't see a problem with it.
No.
But I understand the development for why people think, it didn't really work. But it's like Venom's in the film. Like, I know he wasn't the best Venom. And, you look at him and you compare him to the Venom film. And, of course, the Venom film just shits on this one. But I still think it's great they included him because Venom's obviously a big character in the Spidey comics. And, and then he branches off with his own stuff. And I just think, personally, this film gets too much hate. Like you were saying, Spider-Man 2, I just think it's too much for this film. And, of course, it's just this. I love I like the development of Harry finding out, Peter's Spider-Man, and then how they sort of fight, and then in the end, it's that honorable sacrifice. It's like so bittersweet, and it is like really sad because the moment when he obviously forgives Sandman for what happened to Uncle Ben.
That seems amazing.
That is such a deep and meaningful scene because he's literally letting go of the man who technically killed his uncle, but he didn't exactly mean it because it was actually the other guy. But he didn't technically get the right guy in the end. I've heard a lot. The criticism I've heard about this film as well is people saying he never really gets revenge on who killed Uncle Ben, but he clearly did. Because
he did. Okay, so he kind of did because the guy Sandman would have never killed Uncle Ben if his partner didn't come running and slam into him, and startle him and make him pull the trigger. So if Peter had stopped, like basically, I never understood how it's a retcon or if how it's a plot twist because it isn't. I don't consider it a plot twist. I mean, it's kind of a reveal, but I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say like changes the way we look at the entire trilogy or anything. Right. It kind of does, but it's nothing too drastic in my opinion. So Peter, the whole story of his origin is basically Peter was irresponsible and that led to the death of his uncle. If Peter had stopped that guy, regardless of whether he pulled the trigger or not, if he had stopped that guy in the hallway, Uncle Ben would not have died. His car may have gotten stolen, but Uncle Ben would not have died. Or maybe he would have just gotten Flint, or he would have gotten through to Flint and actually make him go home because that's what he's trying to say. Just put the gun down and go home. So if Peter had been responsible in that scene, it would have changed everything. And so I can understand that being a criticism if Sandman just showed up and was like, just pull the trigger on Uncle Ben, and the partner had nothing to do with it, then I can understand the problem. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change the first movie. Like the first movie still plays out, and it's still the same. So I don't see that an issue. But that may just be me. I think it works. The entire film, I really do like it. I think Venom, I can tell, is kind of forced, and I can tell that Raimi doesn't really understand the character, because that's what he said. I don't really understand Venom, which is why I didn't want to put him in there. But he still, like, despite all the pressure on him, he was still able to create like a good conclusion and like a solid film in of itself. I think I cried in that film at least 3 times. So it did something right. So
it was really sad. Like, you know, the whole ending, because him and Harry were the closest, and for him to be the son of the big villain of Spidey, and then him finding out he killed his father, is just the big developments in this. I think that's the one thing I really like about this film. And aside from all the things that people were criticizing it, for me, I really liked Sandman. I liked even a slight appearance for Venom, even though he wasn't the best. I think it's still cool he was in it. And the big fight in the end was pretty nice to watch. And then, you know, there's a bit of balance with what goes on in this, which is good. And I don't think it's repetitive. And with all the Raimi films, I feel like none of them have a repetitive theme. Like, they all are very significant in their own way, which is why it's definitely the best show.
No, definitely. It's like every film focuses on one thing. So exactly. the entire first film is all about responsibility. The entire second film is about choice, and there was another theme, but I can't remember what it was. Sacrifice. That's right. Choice and sacrifice. And then the third one is all about vengeance and forgiveness. So every single one focuses on a certain aspect. And that's what makes these so good, is because Raimi was like making them as good films, and then he kind of threw in the superhero aspects, because that's what it feels like to me. Like he was trying to make a good film in of itself, and then he was like, okay, this is a comic book character, so I'm gonna have comic book stuff in there. But they feel like films first, superhero movies second, in my opinion.
So I think it's fair. We can put Spider-Man 3 in A, because from what we said, we really do like this film. So I think A is a very good position. But this film,
it's a low A for me, but it's more closer to a B than like say an S. But I'm fine with A.
Cool. Okay, so now we're now going to start on The Amazing Spider-Man. So I don't get me wrong. Or is it? Did you say you liked the second one more than the first, or was it?
So it was. So I love both. I think, well, that's not true. I love the first one. Second one I really like.
Right.
So I do prefer the first one at the moment. I think maybe, yeah. I could go A. If I'm being honest with this film, I think it's a great modern adaptation of the. I hate the argument of like he's too cool for school or he doesn't act like Peter Parker, because that just doesn't make sense to me. This is pretty much what a modern day nerd kind of is like. He's kind of an outcast, socially awkward.
I get what you mean there. See, I didn't think of it in that way. Like, I really like Garfield when he's Spider-Man. I think when he's in costume, when he's fully Spider-Man, I actually think he's probably one of the best at portraying Spider-Man, because he does it in such a way, like, you know, the humor's there, the way he communicates, like everything about, even the body language in the suit. I just love how he's got everything on point. Like, I remember that first encounter he had with, like, I think it was that robber, and he like tagged him on the wall, and like, and then I think the guy's like, I think he's pointing a gun at him, and he's like, "Oh, you're doomed now." And he's like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do?" And he just like, he gets him like that. And it's like, that's such a Spider-Man-esque thing to do, which is why I love the way he portrayed it. But
my one weakness,
I kind of,
yeah,
I kind of do, I do agree with the I see both sides, you know, with him being a bit too cool for school, like, because I have a friend who is very similar in that sort of way, and um, he's not nerdy, but he looks like he is. Um,
Okay.
but like the thing is, I think Andrew Garfield looks like he wouldn't be a nerd when the way he is, because I know what you're saying about, you know, modern day version, nerdy outcast, that kind of thing. But I think they didn't always have to be the same. But I think the only reason he was a nerdy outcast is because they didn't want to make him the same as Toby. So they obviously wanted to change it up.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a little bit different because, like, when he, like, Flash, like, you know, still, I feel like Flash in this film was good, but like, I don't feel like he had the attitude that he did towards Spider-Man like he normally would. Like, yeah, he did have a fight with him and stuff, and Spider-Man stood up to him. But it was like in the Tobey Maguire films, it was he just fought him. He accidentally got into that. Whereas, you know, Garfield's Peter was just like, you know, actually stood up to the dude, and he actually stopped him from bullying and doing this and that. And it's interesting how one version just, you know, being himself and, you know, accidentally getting the Flash, whereas this one, he actually puts himself in it, and then he gets in the, you know, he gets all the stick for it. And it's interesting because, you know, that you wouldn't see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man do that, especially before he becomes Spider-Man. But like, I see the whole he's too cool because he feels like he's already acting like Spider-Man in the way he does intervene.
Kind of.
But I feel like that is a way to sort of just hype and get people excited, like, you know what's going to happen later. But yeah, I think it's got its own style to it, and I always say this for all the films, like, they all have their own style. Like, well, each individual Spider-Man has their own style. But I'm thinking A for this.
Really? Are you
Personally, A. I mean, I was thinking B at first, but I will probably give it an A. Like, again, we're rating a lot of these Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
So yeah,
don't
we'll
worry.
put that
We'll
in
get
A.
to the bottom. We'll get to the bottom. Don't you worry.
Okay, interesting. So obviously now Amazing Spider-Man 2 probably is the most hated Spider-Man film out of all of them.
Probably.
Now, obviously, a lot of people don't like Far From Home, from what I've recently discovered.
Yeah.
And obviously when it was released, but I think this one, I think at the time, yeah, I don't know if it bombed, but a lot of people said it didn't live up to the first. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say it's a great film. And it's a great, maybe like minus the opening scene with Rhino because he just doesn't stop him. Besides that, it's a great representation of the character of Spider-Man. I find it pretty accurate. He's quipping all the time. He's really jokey. Suit is gorgeous to look at. Like the textures and the raised webbing, and like the thin outline on the eyes. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like a deep, like very dark shade of red, which I like that. I think it's a great looking film in general. Like the visual effects.
You're right. Visuals and whatnot, they've all got that spot on the film. Like, I can't criticize anything about that.
It is like stunning. Like, I don't understand how people say Far From Home has the best action when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like right here, like just sitting there with like the best visual effects.
That scene with, you know, him and Gwen comes to mind when, even though that's not a battle scene, it's just that intense moment of, you know, he shoots his web, tries to save Gwen, and you can even the detail with the visual effects to make it seem like it's a hand, you know,
like
trying to grab Gwen.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that concept and the way that they executed that. Of course, it's a very depressing film. So I think people. I have a feeling that people also hated on it because they thought it was too sad. But then again, you know, Spider-Man's story is pretty tragic, losing his parents, and he lost
Yeah,
Uncle Ben.
they're dramas. It's supposed to be
It is
dramas.
a lot of drama in his life, yes. So this is a difficult one because when I watched it, I didn't have any sort of I didn't know about the hate.
Mhm.
I watched it because I really liked the first one. I liked the Amazing Spider-Man a lot. Then I watched Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I was like, damn, that was crazy. Like, I didn't know where I ranked it at the time. I kind of wish I'd really come to a conclusion with it, but I just thought, yeah, decent film. Like, didn't really think too much about it. But when I rewatched it a few times, I noticed a few things, and
Yeah.
I think I've heard a few people. I think there was an inconsistency with Gwen's father within the film because, like, after the first film, he says to Peter, you know, like, I think he tells him to like not see Gwen
Yeah.
anymore, don't get her involved in any of this because of what's happening, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like in the second film, he doesn't really. I think Gwen. I don't know if Gwen's like knows about that or Peter just sort of backs away and she just
She does. She does. She finds out at the end of the first one, that it was her father's.
the funeral scene and everything.
Yeah, she was like, "It was my father, wasn't it?" And then she knows, and then she's like, "We talked about this in the Amazing
Mm.
Spider-Man too. That wasn't his choice to make." So she knows. She knows.
It's interesting like how they went about it in the film. Did you think there was any inconsistencies or anything you felt that they didn't do right with the whole Spidey Gwen situation, or I should say Peter and Gwen, regarding you know
No.
what her dad said?
I mean, maybe in the first one, I would have liked it if they just left if they ended the film with them not getting together because he like breaks that whole promise thing.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like blatantly obvious that they were trying to separate it from the ending of the first film, or the Raimi's film, because Peter rejected MJ in that movie. And they were trying to do something different, which I can understand, but it just makes for a weird ending, in my opinion.
I
Other than
think
that, yeah,
I think the other criticism as well for the film that I noticed was Electro, like how he just suddenly developed, and you know, a lot of people think he didn't have the presence that people wanted him to have. But I mean, I think Jamie Foxx did a good job as Electro.
I really like
Uh,
Jamie Foxx, and I liked the portrayal. I thought it was just the right amount of cheese for what they were going for, uh, with like his dialogue and stuff. And even
right.
with like like a Riddler approach, and in the old Batman movies where he's like idolizing the hero and then he turns against him. Um, it works. It works for me. Pretty powerful. I don't know what else. I thought the fights were like really really cool. Because I'm pretty sure that movie cost like $240 million to make. So
Mm,
yeah, it had a pretty high budget. So the visual effects were pretty understandable why they were so good.
yeah.
I really like the film, and I really like Peter's journey in the film. And I think I don't have any issues with what they did with him and Gwen. I thought it was like a necessary kind of lesson for him to learn.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets a little bit too extra with the train coming out from the subway and
Oh
like
yeah.
the coins in the calculator. Maybe that's a little too much, but it never bothered me. So I'd go B if I'm being honest. I'm
I
fine
was
with
actually going to say B as well because
yeah.
I'd probably say the way you were sort of ranking Spider-Man 3, I feel like it would just about hit B. I mean, most people would probably put it in C or D, but I think I didn't have such a problem with it. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think B's.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, if we had more than one B, I'd probably put that in the lowest B column because of it just about makes it. Um, Okay, so before we get onto the Tom Holland Spidey films, we've got Spider-Verse. Now,
Yeah.
Spider-Verse it's not like any of the other films. It's so unique.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting how for once, they didn't really focus it on, you know, the main Spider-Man. Like, it's interesting how they included more of Miles in this. And tell me what you thought about it.
Spider-Verse, I really, really liked when it came out. Then I rewatched it and I thought it was still good. I didn't love it. Then I rewatched it more and more, and it got better and better for me.
Mm.
But then I watched it more and more, and I kind of saw a little more things that didn't add up. I still think it's a great film. Maybe like a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's super solid. Nails what it means to be Spider-Man. Just nails that aspect.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have liked for it to like dive more into other aspects of being Spider-Man, but other than that, I thought Miles was a solid protagonist. And Peter B. Parker is a great Peter Parker, like a great version of the character to have in there. I think they were going
Yeah.
for 616 version with that, probably. And then 1610 is obviously Miles's universe.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think, yeah, it wasn't the best 616 portrayal of Peter Parker, but for what it was great. I think having like that kind of grumpy, schlubby Peter Parker, which is what Jake Johnson usually does. Having that type of Peter Parker was like an interesting dynamic, like a Peter Parker who just doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. Um,
Yeah.
and then he rediscovers his love for being Spider-Man because of Miles. I thought that was a
Mm.
good journey. I thought that was a good arc.
I think it was smart to integrate Miles into that within, like, that's like a good enough reason to um, give Spider-Man, well, Peter's Spider-Man more importance. Because, of course, Spider-Man is him. He is the Spider-Man. No matter how many Spider-Mans after him, he is the
Yeah,
OG. Um,
Peter Parker. Yeah,
and it is cool how Miles sort of re-sparked that love for being Spider-Man within him. And this film is actually it's got like the sad tragic stuff. It's also got the awesome Easter eggs. You've seen with Peter's Spider-Man. I think it's the train scene, and then obviously the the Maguire dance. There's quite a few good things about this. So I think I'm thinking A for this.
I'm thinking a solid A. I think I am.
All right, cool. So we'll put that in A. Right, so now we can get on to the Tom Holland stuff.
Oh,
For
dang.
those of you watching, you might think the meme right behind me is like highly insulting of Tom, but I have nothing against his uh, Spider-Man. It's just that this meme, I just happened to find it in my computer and I just had it. It's for another video, which you will find out. But anyway, yeah. So we'll start with Homecoming. What did you think of watching Homecoming?
What was weird with both MCU films, because I really liked them coming out of the theater, which I guess Marvel movies just have that effect. Like even like the movies that are generally regarded as the worst.
Right.
Their cinema scores are pretty high. Like Thor: The Dark World, it has like a B plus. So like people really enjoyed that movie coming out of the theater. I think it's the same with every single film. So first watching Homecoming, really really liked it. Just like with all the movies, it went down and down on rewatches, and right now, I think it's a solid film, well made, good,
Mm-hmm.
well written. Not really any plot holes, consistent with its characters and
Yeah.
the relationships. It's a well made film, and um, it feels like people like this is more of a criticism with Far From Home, but Homecoming, it feels like it's a film that was made like people, John Watts, the writers, they all set out to make a film. They're like, this is what we want to do, and we're gonna make this film, this John Hughes type high school story with Spider-Man in it, and they made that
Right.
film. Like it feels like a group of people banded together to create this story, and I respect that. Um, I just think it misses the mark in too many places for me to consider it a good Spider-Man film. So maybe like 6 out of 10 is what I gave it the last time I watched it. So it's technically a B minus, I think, in grade wise, but I would rather go C for me.
I think So when I first saw Homecoming, obviously hyped that we're finally going to get an MCU for Spidey film. I think my expectations were very high for the film, and I think the the expectation was high. I was very happy with when it started and everything. But then, yeah, I think after a few rewatches, you realize there's things that are inconsistent. And of course, we've discussed this off the record, off YouTube, about how certain things didn't quite add up. Like, there's a few inconsistencies here and there with some of the things he does. I think I personally liked a lot of the relationship with him and Tony Stark because, of course, doing Uncle Ben again is just again repetitive. There's nothing different if we just include him in. And I think a lot of people were disappointed because they really wanted him to be in the film, but I understood why they didn't go with that. And this Spider-Man is a completely different version. He's a bit younger. He appeals more to younger audiences. And of course, the one thing I think that gets a lot of stick is how the things he does lacks what's the word?
Consequences.
That's the word. There's lack of consequences in the actions he has, like him leaving for the I think it's the spelling, the competition that they're doing with the school. And he just he comes here and there, and he's like, here, he's back at the party. Yeah, I'm here, now I'm gone.
And the thing is, even the film acknowledges that this, like, we don't have that many consequences, and they turn it into a joke, like, "Hey, welcome back, Peter." Like, they turn it into like for comedic effect, but that doesn't change the fact that there still isn't any consequences. Like, you can make a joke of something, but that thing is still going to be there. So it's like everything he does, it feels like, I don't want to say he gets everything handed to him because I find that to be a weak argument because I just don't really agree with it. But I think he needs more. He needs to be reprimanded for what he does, and he just isn't. I see A-Duders in the chat saying Homecoming he's found better and better, which I would disagree with, but not keen on the hot anime angle, which is definitely something that I'm not fine with either. And then the lack of Uncle Ben acknowledgement, he's saying. I mean, Uncle Ben, this is more of a problem with Far From Home because Far From Home is so late into the game and you're still not doing these things that now is just getting kind of tiresome. With Homecoming, it was like, it's the first film in a trilogy. They're just rebooting him, or not rebooting him, but like they're just making a new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets a pass. I wouldn't give it a pass, but maybe it kind of does get a pass. With Far From Home, you are now second film in a trilogy. Spidey's been on screen like 4 times, if you include the team up films.
Of course.
Now it's bothering me. Like, why are you trying your hardest to not reference anything that happened previously? Because Uncle Ben is the reason that Spider-Man is a thing. Spider-Man would not be Spider-Man if Uncle Ben didn't die, probably. And if Uncle Ben just wasn't there in Peter's life, Peter would not have that sense of responsibility, whatsoever. Because Peter Parker, if you take, people will criticize the Amazing Spider-Man films for Peter Parker's too much of a jerk. But if you take a look at the original comics, Peter Parker isn't the nicest dude in the world. He can be kind of full of himself. He's kind of, I guess, an outcast in a way. He kind of doesn't really he's not the same person as he is after the spider bite. After the spider bite and after Uncle Ben dying and after becoming Spider-Man, he obviously has these moralities and these ideals, and he believes in them, and he's a better person now. But before then, he's not the nicest dude in the world. So if you're talking about comic accuracy, or if you want to criticize, not you specifically, I'm just saying in general, if people want to criticize those films because of comic accuracy, well, I don't know, you might want to take a look at those original comics because they're not Peter Parker isn't the nicest dude in the world in there. So Uncle Ben is like a huge part of his life, and ignoring him just doesn't make sense. Like if there's a person, and then if there's a person like who's really important to you, you're gonna like, I don't know what's the course of Homecoming? Does it take place over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks? I want to say.
I think it does. I think developments happen within a week or two. I'm not, because I think it is something across that, because unless they sort of roll it through the months, especially the scene when Spidey's got this. I think he's got that tracking device, or him and Ned figure things out for a while. So I don't know if that happens over a few weeks or the entire film. I think it does develop over a certain time, more than a few weeks, possibly.
Yeah, it's probably like the minimum a week or two. So chances are you're gonna mention that person some way, shape, or form within those 2 or 3 weeks. So that just doesn't make sense. And then plot wise, if you want to compare with like within the MCU, Peter's character, this is kind of a problem with Civil War, but Civil War is not a Spider-Man film, so I can't really blame it for that. But Peter never questions which side he's fighting for. Tony just shows up, and Peter's like, I can't go to Germany. And he's like, okay, I'm going to threaten you by revealing your identity to Aunt May.
Oh, I remember what you're saying about this.
And I'm like going to blackmail you into joining me in fighting the Avengers.
Tony.
And Peter's like, okay. And then he never. So then that's not a Spider-Man film, so I'm not going to criticize it for that. But then Homecoming, it's like 2 months. It's only like 2 months after Civil War. Yeah. So he's like, he doesn't question Tony. Doesn't question which side he fought for. I mean, he says, he's like, when he's talking to Captain America, he's like, Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Like, he idolizes both Tony and Cap. So if Cap showed up and was like, we need to fight Tony, would you have done the same thing? Like, which side? Like, he never questions that. He never questions, like, he says he cares about the little guy, but Tony, who's technically a big guy, he just shows up. Like, he never questions who the little guy is in that scenario.
Do you know what? I feel this Spider-Man he's been easily influenced, and I totally get that, because he is, in the comics, he is a bit more independent. Like, he doesn't operate with the Avengers. It's like they operate on their own, and they ask for his help, or he gets involved. Some comics, and there's the odd ones where he's a legit Avenger and he's part of the team. But because he's so independent, most of the time he's already fighting the crime that he has to. Then the Avengers needs that extra help. They get Spidey, and I feel like with how Cap, he's so self-righteous with, he does the right thing despite what everyone thinks of him disbanding the Avengers. He's doing what he feels is right because he's thinking about Bucky, he's thinking about a big deal. I feel Spider-Man could have looked into it a little bit more and gone, Tony, you didn't, like, they could have shown Spider-Man like processing it a bit more. Like, why would Cap do this? Like, surely Cap's been the good guy. Like, he wouldn't do this for no good reason.
And the thing is, the only reason they've given him is Captain America is going crazy, because that's what he says. He's like,
that's actually what Tony said. Like, I think Tony sort of like manipulated him to go, right, Cap's in the wrong here. Government's after him. He's a criminal, and then just sort of made him look bad. So then Peter's like, well, I'm on the right side. Like, he doesn't question it. And I feel like it's also his own agenda coming in, where he's like, I don't want to get involved in any. I just want to do what I think's what is right, and just get on with it. And I feel like he's sort of impressing Tony as well, because like Tony blackmails him. Also, like, it's sort of like a low-key threat if you think about it. Like, how he says he will tell his aunt if he doesn't go to Germany with him. Like, Tony literally goes, if you don't, then it's like, so he's gonna ruin like Peter's life if
exactly.
In a way, Tony's sort of going, I'll ruin your life if you don't, go and do this mission for me where we stop Cap, who's the villain. Like, I mean, I do feel like they sort of threw it at Peter, like, you've been given, all right, I've seen you on the internet, you got powers, right? I'm gonna take your responsibility and use it for my own Like that's how I feel they sort of went about it. And I mean, I didn't have any problem with that in Civil War and things, but obviously when you look back and you realize the inconsistencies, and then going into Homecoming, like
Yeah.
one of my friends, he's a big Spidey fan. I don't know if he's on the same level as you, or possibly, I think probably same level because he adores Spidey. His criticisms made me laugh because they are quite funny, but they are. I can see what he means. He doesn't like the Spider-Man suits. He thinks the Stark suit is Tony Stark suit. It's nothing to do with Peter.
Yeah, I think the suits look wise. I don't like them either. Like I don't like.
Oh,
People,
I agree with how it looks.
yeah,
Because I don't like the CGI. Like I don't.
yeah,
I think that takes away who Spider-Man is. You know, he's not a CGI character. He's not like Hulk, where you can just buff out and make look real. Like he's someone that is human. So you got to make him as realistic as possible. But
the tech
the CGI,
yeah,
I didn't like it.
the tech is tech's an issue. Tech's an issue.
I
Even people who love Homecoming will tell you that they don't like the tech part of his suits. Like from my understanding, everybody who I've talked to that loves Homecoming, even they're like, yeah, I don't like the fact that he has this teched out suit. So
yeah, I totally get like. I think people don't like the fact he's got an AI in the suit as well, because like his suit talks to him, because they feel like, yeah, that's literally what Tony has in his suit. You just got basically an Iron Man suit in a way, and
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
and then obviously with Infinity War, he gets the Iron Spidey suit at the end of the film, doesn't take it, ends up wearing it in Infinity War. People even criticize that, but in the comics, he's Iron Spidey, and I mean that was paying homage to that, and I think that was awesome to have it in that sense, but. I think for a first suit, even given to him, like it is too techie. Like the scene when he's not sure how to like set the web setting, like that scene when he's trying to be discreet and those criminals are in the van and he like uses this sort of he accidentally like enables this feature which it just basically shows the lights with his webs and like it lights up I think like the gas station light and the comedic things all there and stuff, but like Spidey's never had an issue with the suits he has. Like he knows what he's going into with the suit he has. Like
this Spider-Man is too inexperienced and not really cool enough, in my opinion, to be considered a good Spider-Man. He's too much in the learning phase, and
I think that's probably why they partner him with like an Avenger, because he is not ready to be doing his own thing. That's why he's like,
but he should be, and that's my entire point. That he should be ready. He should be Solo. And dude, you're saying I like his moving eyes, but all the tech and the Karen stuff wasn't good. Not Spidey. His moving eyes are a tricky one for me because I like them in animation and I like them in the comics, obviously, and then I like them in the game. Like anything that's not live action, I like the moving eyes. But then live action, like movies, or like if they make a live action TV show someday or something, I want them static, and I want them to be reflective. I prefer the reflective lenses because they just look so dope. And when they're static, the entire point of the Spider-Man mask is so the criminals can't see his fear. And it's basically just to hide emotion. And he quips, he jokes just to hide the trauma that's stored up inside him. So when we let him emote, that in animation it's fine, but in live action, because we've seen the static eyes and how the entire mood of an entire scene just revolves around his face, and if there's just like static, it's just way more deeper, in my opinion. The moving eyes, they're tricky. They're cool. You can show spider sense with like his eyes like going like super wide. But yeah, and there's no spider sense either. Like they don't use spider sense in Homecoming except for like one time.
Yeah, I mean they referred to it as the Peter's tingle, which was funny, but I feel like they were holding back. Just say Spidey sense, like it would have just been cooler for the longer term fans and paying homage to that. But they really it's like they really tried to stop from saying it, and it's like just say Spidey sense because everyone wants to see that, and he finally gets at the end of the film. But we'll talk more about it with with Far From Home when we get onto that.
So, is this a C for you? Is this a D for you? Is this a B for you?
This is difficult. Where would you put this?
I would put C. I don't think it's a horrible interpretation, but it's a solid film, so I can't knock it down for being just a not good interpretation. I would go C.
I would probably put it in. See, I don't know if I see it as bad as Amazing Spider-Man 2 was in some ways, and I don't know if I see it as good as like any other film other than that. This is a bit of a difficult one. I mean, if I put it with B, might be fair because I don't think it's the best Spider-Man film. I don't think it's the worst. This is difficult, actually.
You can do. Should we do rock paper scissors? See who wins.
I was thinking we could put it in C because I do want to make this list a bit more interesting.
I mean, it's up to you.
I feel like we will. I'm gonna put it in C. I always wanted to make things interesting because I know we've been rating a lot of the Spider-Man films, and there's got to be. I just want to have a bit of a balance, but I'll put it in C. But now, obviously, the final film,
Far From Home,
as we have been talking about. Do you feel that this is better than Homecoming?
No, I do not. it's bottom of the barrel for me. Whatever the lowest tier is, D, E, F, whatever you have, just put it there. Wow. I don't know if there's anything lower than D. I don't know if there is. If there is, I would put it there. Whatever the lowest tier is, it's just not for me.
I think isn't it Simply Cinema? He
really
likes it. He says it's like the best one, right?
He thinks it's the best one, and then I know other people who really like it. I know people who would put it in their top 3 or top 2. Yes, A-Duder saying Far From Home got worse on repeat viewings for me. I am the same way with both Homecoming and Far From Home. The more I watch them, the more I dislike them.
Just to say,
less, though.
If anyone said anything, I'm sorry. I haven't tried to ignore you. It's just I can't see it on the screen. So what I've done is I'm literally on YouTube on my phone, and I can see some of your questions. So yeah, it did definitely get worse as you watched it, and I think the only reason people really watched it was the Endgame hype. They're obviously curious if this was going to be better than Homecoming. And of course, he's finally not going to have Tony Stark around, so people were like, "Oh, is he going to be more independent and be more of a Spider-Man that everyone wants to see?" And I liked how, I did like how he was becoming more of Spidey, but they are really gradually getting there. But it is very slow in the build-up for him to become an independent Spider-Man. The one we all like and love. What was your thoughts on Mysterio, though?
Well, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's a fantastic actor. And acting-wise, he was good. Mysterio, we didn't even talk about Vulture in Homecoming. Such a good villain, but
couldn't forget him.
Mysterio's nothing. It's like nowhere near as good as Vulture in my opinion. But Mysterio's plan just doesn't make sense to me. He's like a villain. He's kind of villainous, but I think I like some of the dialogue they gave him, like at the very end when he's dying, which I don't believe he's dead. When he's dying, he's like, people need something to believe, and nowadays they'll believe anything. I like that, but I think not just his plan, but the entire movie is just full of holes. I can't. I have to literally. I've seen this on Twitter, and I laughed out loud when I read this because it's so true. People point out so many plot holes. I read something that was like, you literally have to turn your brain off to enjoy this movie, and I could not agree more with it because it's like you have to literally put logic aside to really understand the plot of this film. So it's. Like not even as a Spider-Man film, like I see the whole him kind of getting out of his shadow, but to me that's pretty much the same thing that happened in Homecoming. He was like, somebody's got to look out for the little guy. I don't want to be an Avenger. And then he does the same thing in Far From Home. So where's the growth? Where's the change? If it's the same thing as the previous film. So even as just a Spider-Man film, like, it doesn't work for me. But then as a film, it's just full of logic inconsistencies, which just don't like add up for me. Like plot breaking elements. So like, if this was true, the plot could not go on. A lot of contrivances. I'm curious, what do you think? Because I haven't heard your opinions on this film.
Far From Home. So I liked, how Peter was finally realizing, I mean, I like how he sort of realizes, I can't be like Iron Man, I'm Spider-Man. You've got to accept that. I liked how Happy was around and sort of being that sort of a mentor, like helping Peter, because he always does have like a mentor, some sort of like moral support, if it's not always Aunt May. And I think it's interesting, this one. Obviously, I think this is one huge thing. I think we're talking about consequences, like, the end of Homecoming. Peter just, Aunt May sees him in the Spider-Man suit, and she goes, "What the fuck?" And then film ends. At the start of this film, it's like
totally cool with
she's
it.
at that conference, and she's like high-fiving Peter. Knows he's fully Spider-Man. No, even though the inconsistency I'd noticed in Homecoming was, oh, if you see any crime like that, then you know what you do. You turn away and you go running. And she's just now gone, my son was in that. He could have died. She just it's like she neglects it. And she goes, it's like she's also got the attitude like, oh, my son's Spider-Man. He can be anyone. But when has Aunt May ever done that? She's constantly crying and worrying for Peter in all the films. Like,
in the
Peter,
first film,
be careful.
I mean, in Homecoming, she's like, you turn, you run the other way. And Peter's like, I cannot do that to her. She finds out, she's gonna freak out. And now in Far From Home, she's like pushing him to be Spider-Man. Like, don't forget your suit. You need to be Spider-Man on your trip. You need to put yourself in danger, which is what I warned you about in the last film. So it's inconsistent with her character, and it bugs me. Also, when he opens the suitcase, are you telling me that whoever that airport employee is, she just looks at the banana and doesn't care about the Spider-Man suit? Like,
no.
Like, are you really telling me that?
That is, I think it's great. They're trying to appeal to a younger audience, and they're making some of it funny. But the odds of, like, imagine if.
But at the sake of logic,
it's literally the way they did that is almost like, imagine if I had a briefcase, they open it up and there's a knife in there, and then you look at my phone that's next to it. It's like you're gonna ignore the weapon that I have in there. Like, what is he doing? Like, you can meme that very easily, like with anything. Like you could put, like, let's say you had the security woman. She's captioned as Spidey fans that loved all the let's say they loved all the Tom Holland stuff, and then there's like people who are crying out saying they're not the best films. She's completely neglected, like, who was Spider-Man before, all the good stuff, and this is like some bandwagon that bums like Far From Home and something, and she's neglecting like the piece of OG materials right there. It's like you can meme that very easily.
Yeah, it's like she's like the defender of Tom Holland, who's like, Tom Holland is comic accurate, and she's just ignoring all the comics that are stored up in the briefcase. She's just ignoring all the comics and all the source material. So like, it just doesn't make sense. Like even Peter in that scene is like, really, I have a Spider-Man suit, and you care about my banana? Like you? That's really
what you're doing right now. I feel like that was one of the biggest plot holes. Like, if that was in like maybe another universe, he's finally just showing himself to the world. Like, surely she could have even, like, if that was like in the other universes, that any other Spider-Man is getting exposed there and then. Like, everyone knows who he is now. I mean, yeah, especially in that world, they are very aware of Spider-Man. Like, if he was caught in Europe, they would know the Spider-Man. Like, it was funny that, further later on, I think it's the after scene.
Wait, is
he has the whole Night Monkey suit.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they then just think, yeah, like now he's disguised, like no one will notice him. But then at the airport, like surely the person would have realized that was Spider-Man because they're now in the country.
I just realized this. They're not even in America. Like, just they're in a completely different country.
Yeah.
And this person who is known in America as a superhero, it doesn't add up. Like logic wise, like if like any other employee would have been like, why do you have a suit? Like that's a Spider-Man suit. And the note literally says, you forgot this, May. Like what? Like did you forget? Like are you gonna go to like some costume party and you're gonna forget your suit? Like no, this means something. Like this is important. So like just like common sense is just ignored. Like the baby mountain goat scene. If somebody told me, look, there are baby mountain goats, I sure as heck would not look to wherever they are pointing.
No, you'd be like, what, bro? What you on about?
Baby mountain goats. No, that's not how it works. And then that entire scene is everything wrong with not just that movie, but just MCU Spider-Man in general. You're telling me, Peter, like you're telling me, if you're in a bus and Peter webs the steering wheel, everybody who's looking towards his direction is not going to see him web that steering wheel. Is that what you're actually telling me right now? Are you telling me that Peter's going to jump up out of the bus, web the drones, and then land in the same exact spot? Like, are you telling me that's how?
Yeah, hair's a little bit different, but
if the film was logical, Peter, if the film was like had common sense, or if it obeyed physics, Peter would jump and he would land like at the edge of the bus. Like the bus would keep on moving. The bus is not going to stop for him just so he can jump. You know?
Yeah.
So where does that come from? And Peter Parker in this movie is stupid. He calls Brad a target when the system he's talking to has drones. It's an advanced system. Like, what did you think target meant? What did you think that was going to do? Like, are you really that dumb in this scene right now? He is so incompetent.
CV going in.
It's so dumb. It's so he had like a good like 5 to 10 seconds to cancel the drone strike. Instead, he's like, Edith, what are you talking about? Shouldn't you be canceling the drone strike when she just issued a drone strike on that person? And then the drones, which are supposed to shoot rapid fire whenever they have a target, the drones just like stand over the bus. They don't even start shooting for like a good like 10 seconds. So Peter just has time to blow them up.
But so it's also that, and does no one even hear like when he jumps down? Like, does no one hear like, wait, what? I'm sure you, Peter, you definitely jumped. I mean, first of all, it's the hair. Now you just made this noise. What are you doing, Peter? And who the hell destroyed that thing that was about to like, I mean, obviously they didn't look at it, but how did not one person notice there's like a drone coming towards the back of the coach? And how did everyone look in that direction without even looking straight on, like to get to where they're going? Like even that logic didn't make any sense.
Dimitri is literally looking. Wait, no, I think they destroyed the rearview mirror, or the side mirror. So that's not a fair issue. But like he punches Flash, which by the way, Peter Parker is now so inexperienced that he doesn't have control over his own super strength. If Peter Parker in this film is anything like he is in the comics, Flash could have died when he punched him. If he's anything,
he wouldn't knock him out because I mean Peter has to hold his punches back because he's that powerful and he could kill anyone at any time. Like
a normal person, he could kill him. So like he just doesn't have that much control anymore. And then the best part is that somebody notices him punch him, and she just never brings it up again. She's like, "Did you just punch Flash?" And that's it. You never get a reference to that ever again. Like, how about the scene when Brad is like, is nobody noticing Peter just disappearing or whatever he says? That would have been a good time.
He's actually got a point. I know he's like basically like just trying to get with MJ, but like he's actually got like a very valid point. Like, where the hell does Peter go? And how do the people before Brad even was around like not question that? Yeah, why does Peter go everywhere? Oh, he could be. Oh no, he's not Spider-Man. He's too young. Nah. They don't even give it a thought. Like what also I found a little bit annoying is how MJ just sort of. I know it made sense at the same time, but she just knew he was Spider-Man. Like if you look carefully in that scene, if you slow it down, MJ's head is just about. You can see her in her seat, and she's still facing Peter, and she's not even looking at Peter's like, oh look, mountain goats. Like she's actually still staring at him, but they don't show it. You can just about see her head and a bit of her forehead, and you can say, yeah, she's just seen Peter jump and do that. She knows he's Spider-Man, so she's like sort of had that thought since the coach, and then obviously when Peter goes, I have to tell you something. Yeah, she says you're Spider-Man. I know it. It's like even that was quite boring because it's like, yeah, she already knew that, and MJ, couldn't figure it out until it was a big deal. Like
the whole Brad character that makes no sense. Which, by the way, Brad's not even a character because he just doesn't have qualities.
He was just funny, man.
Brad is a funny dude. Brad is just an obstacle that Peter has to overcome. He's not an actual person in the movie, but whatever. But Brad is so unnecessary because we know MJ doesn't care about him. She wants to be with. We can clearly tell that. So to have this love triangle makes no sense because we know MJ wants to be with Peter. So why have Brad there?
She doesn't like anyone else.
And speaking of Brad, he just walks into that room, which, by the way, nobody locks the room where a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent is making somebody change into a actual suit. But whatever,
that's not a big deal, like, out of nowhere. Especially if you want to get it done quickly. Like, you would definitely make sure the place is concealed and secret if it's the S.H.I.E.L.D. involved. Like, what the hell?
Like, whatever. Okay, don't lock the door. But Brad, I don't know what you're doing on this side of the area because I literally just saw you walking in the complete opposite direction, which was presumably the bathroom. So you can't just show up here and be like, I thought this was the bathroom because you were literally walking towards the bathroom in the previous scene. So I don't know what you're doing over here. And then Dimitri is just standing there. He just lets him walk in. Like, what? Why did he not do anything about this kid walking into where he just sent Peter? Like
surely they would have. Like, surely they know, like, with working with Nick Fury and all that, they should know better. And they're actually, like, always about secrecy. Hence why they're S.H.I.E.L.D. And, like, they cover up a lot of stuff. They're basically, like, sort of like Area 51 type people. They won't, tell you. They'll just tell you, no, none of this is real. Or they'll just hush it. They're like Men in Black in a way. That scene with Brad just taking a photo and then going, I'm going to show MJ. And I just found that, like, I think that's just a scene just for the youngsters to see him. Brad is like that guy in your school, that dude that tried to compete with you with the girl, which I think just took away the entire thing of Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man doesn't go running after a girl. Like, okay, he cares about MJ in the other films. Obviously, with the main Spider-Man, it's Gwen, but, like, his purpose is to be a good person, be a good hero, and fight for what's right. Whereas I just think he's a bit of a simp in this film. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
I think he's simping, and he's just everything. MJ, I can't do anything like MJ. What am I going to do? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I have the scene on the plane as well. Like, he gets moved, and it's like, oh my god, dude, just like you're freaking Spider-Man. You fought. You fought with Tony. You fought in the Battle of Endgame. How do you not have the confidence to tell this random girl who's just not that special, like, look, this and that? Like, how can you just not? I just don't get how he's simping over a girl. Like, I mean, if that was Black Widow, I can understand why you're a bit nervous and stuff, but I just don't get his insecurity, even though he'd gone through so much, just like, the snap and all that. I just think you're right. There's too much inconsistency in this film, and I'm starting to see how bad it is now, because at the time, I mean, I saw this film on my birthday on premiere night.
Wow.
So I was
like, I feel so sorry for you. I feel so sorry for you.
I was hyped. I was like, great, Spider-Man film. It's going to be good, hopefully. I mean, I didn't really think of it as much, but yeah, totally sucks now when I've rewatched it and seen it. Like, there's things I still like about each Spider-Man film, but this film has too much to go. Yeah, like, I mean, it's just too much now. Like, there's like too many things that have happened, and the consequence thing. Yeah, I mean, he gets lucky with Brad. Like, no one thinks Brad's telling the truth. They think he's just a boy that cries wolf. Like, they don't even take him seriously for the moment, even though he is the only person that's made that point. And then the first thing they go is, oh, that's a bit weird. You've got photos of like Peter or whatever. They didn't even look at the photos. He says, "Look, I've got an actual photo." Like to
Yeah.
MJ, and I just again, if someone had a photo, like let's say if I was MJ and I saw Peter was with another girl, the photo, I'd find that weird if someone had a photo.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, okay, weird that you took the photo. So yeah, that's freaking weird. But yeah, what is in the image is still like I shouldn't get away from that because that's actually an issue as well. But yeah, it's like the things like that. I just feel like the thought process of this film was not. It
They
wasn't
got
thought
lazy. They got lazy with the
very
form.
lazy. I think
It's like
I
it's
feel like
feels like
writing. I think it was writing.
like the Homecoming. Homecoming feels like a group of people, like I was saying, banded together, created something. This just feels like the studio was just like, okay, it's been 2 years, we need a film, and just
Yeah,
pooped it out. Just pooped it out. That's all
pretty
they did.
much. Yeah.
And Adrian said the one Mysterio scene with the trippy illusions was a great scene. All the elemental monster stuff I didn't like. The elemental monster stuff makes no sense, but whatever. The Mysterio scene with it was cool to look at, but even that is filled with plot holes, and they have a chance to reference Uncle Ben, but they're just like, "Oh, Tony, it was your fault," when it clearly wasn't. But whatever. The elemental stuff makes no sense because Mysterio's like, we were using EMPs to trick Shield into thinking that an attack is actually happening here, which by the very last fight with the whole big elemental, at that point Shield still doesn't know. But okay, this is why it doesn't make sense. If you know what an EMP is, it disrupts every single electricity in that area. So Shield's like, I don't know about satellites, but Mysterio, like, no tech should be working. Peter's lenses shouldn't be working.
It's too much, isn't it?
It like you're using an EMP as an example. It would have been so much better if they just worked it into the MCU with, like, instead of making like the Barth creator,
Yeah.
make him like some. I heard this. This is not my idea. I heard this on the internet, but it's a good idea. Make him like a failed student of the Ancient One or something, and have him actually have powers.
That's interesting.
And then like actually have like, and then like able to him like maybe he's like a fired or like a failed special effects artist, like he was in the comics. Make him that. He's a failed special effects artist, and then he sets out to like make a film with like the greatest special effects ever. Because they're gonna be real. He's gonna be creating illusions with like magic, and so just make him somebody who practiced with the Ancient One. And then that way you can referencing Doctor Strange kind of makes even more sense, because it may look like it's illusions to Peter, and so he's like, what about Doctor Strange? But the stuff he was doing would have been way cooler if we had it would have been way cooler. It would have been realistic. There wouldn't be that many plot holes when you put in real life logic like that, with like technology and like certain things need to happen for other things to exist. When you do that, you run into the problem of just like contradicting your entire film. Like, Mysterio's like, how does in that scene when Peter is just like sitting on the ledge, and Mysterio shows up, if Mysterio doesn't actually have a suit and he's just wearing a mocap suit, how does he fly up to where Peter is sitting? Like, how does he fly up there? He can't actually fly, so how does he do that? It's not an illusion, because he sits down and then like later just like touches Peter's shoulder or something. So are you telling me, is he actually Mysterio? Like, does he actually exist? Because no, that's not what you're telling me.
I do like the illusions, and I think Mysterio was great. But like I do just said now, like it's all a bit OTT on the CGI, which I think, yeah. Even like, I mean, even the freaking suit CGI, like they can't. I feel like they do plaster too much CGI in the MCU at times.
Why do you need
with Spider-Man, it's too much.
Why do you need CGI on him when he's standing in a hallway? Are you telling me Tom Holland can't put on the suit to just stand somewhere? Like, do you actually?
The thing is, from what I saw in the behind the scenes, his suit looks better than it would when it's CGI. Like, 100%.
100%.
Do you know what? Actually, I will search this up and I'll quickly show you. literally it actually looks better when he's literally not CGI'd, and it looks so much like the Maguire one. Like the lining sticks out more.
It
Let's have a
does.
look. It's genuinely like amazing how it looks better than the actual CGI.
It is just. Oh,
I hope it comes
man.
up with the.
So
Can
what
you
are
see
are you
that
thinking?
like vaguely?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
Right.
I
So
got that
that's
amazing Spider-Man
literally
suit.
his.
The,
How
the
similar
first
that
amazing.
looks to like Tobey Maguire's suit.
It's amazing. It looks so good. So are
It's
you thinking? What
actually
are you
I can
thinking?
get a bigger image of it now so you can see.
Are you thinking
Just
D after
look at
all
that.
I said? Yeah, it's like exactly like the. I think the mask
I'm
looks
probably
kind of
gonna
weird,
put
but
this in D. Yeah.
the mask
Yeah. I think like.
when it's like not CGI looks kind of weird, but other than that, like in the left image, that one is for Civil War. The mask doesn't look that great, but other than that, it looks amazing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I
what are you
mean,
thinking? You thinking D?
I think this will definitely go in D. I mean, we have been criticizing it a lot.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was a lot of hype. I think first impression of it, I would have given it a low B. So probably like the same as Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
But noticing all these things and really discussing it, looking into it, it's got to go with D. Yeah, that is definitely that's probably the worst Spider-Man film.
So we actually agreed on everything. That's surprising because I was not expecting to do that.
Pretty
So I
much,
still
like
don't.
I think the only thing I didn't really agree with is like Amazing Spider-Man being the best. Like, oh yeah, it definitely beats the Maguire, but
Oh,
we have pretty similar opinion on Spider-Man and the way we see it. So yeah,
yeah,
you were pretty much like thinking what I was when even like we had the debates with Simply and all the others.
yeah.
Pretty
So
much, yeah.
I still don't know. Is Spider-Man 1 your favorite or Spider-Man 2? Because they're both
Spider-Man
in
1.
that. Spider-Man 1, really?
Yeah. I
Okay.
just loved it. I love the whole sequencing. I mean, I think from start to finish, I loved it. How he finally becomes Spider-Man. The journey through school. There's so many iconic scenes, and even other than it being such a great film and having so much impact on myself as well as you and others,
Yeah.
I feel like even the memes are brilliant. Like the memes even bring me back to the film. Of course, nothing can beat the scene in Spider-Man 3, but that's just a one-off. But like, yeah, I just think apart from the seriousness, there's actually quite a lot of humor in this film. Like, I
That's
think it's like
that's been given to
low-key
you?
humor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. 100%.
And when you compare it to like the MCU ones, like you can see that humor is just like some of it's forced, and they're just trying to make it more funny. Whereas if something funny happens in like the first Spider-Man film, it just comes across natural. Like when he like swings a web for the first time, and like how he slams into that billboard. Like I found that
Yeah.
hilarious. Like
It's so funny. So correct me if I'm wrong. Is this your ranking top to bottom? Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Homecoming, Far From Home.
see, I'd say every other film is in order apart from the A row.
Okay.
Now how I would see it, I would probably put Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
2.
Okay.
It's difficult because I'd probably put Spider-Man. I'd probably put Amazing Spider-Man then into the Spider-Verse because I haven't watched Spider-Verse as much as the Amazing Spider-Man. Then I'll put
Sweet.
Spider-Man 3.
That's
So
actually my list. Two is at the top for me. Other than that, I think we have the same list. Other than
pretty
that,
much, yeah. I feel like I can. There might be a film better. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if the third Tom Holland film was that amazing, if it could get an S tier, I will rechange my list based on that
Come on.
at the top or wherever it
I'm here to
goes.
tell
But
you.
yeah,
I'm telling you right now, it will not. Mark my words.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
When Spider-Man 3 comes out.
Because Spider-Man 1, it didn't top that, and I thought it would easily. I thought the second film, Far From Home, was going to top it, and it didn't. So, yeah, I mean, it is a bit shocking.
They bottomed it. Actually, they bottomed it like at the very bottom with Far From Home.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that's the list, and that pretty much concludes the entire video. So, I think most of our viewers have gone now. But if you're still watching, I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks to you, CB, for joining and doing this collab.
Of course.
I know you love Spider-Man, and we've been saying this for a while. So yeah, we definitely have to maybe consider doing like another Spidey tier list or something. Maybe the cartoon versions, because I think this list would be interesting if we include the portrayals from the TV shows and cartoons and whatnot.
So so you can end the stream in a little bit, and then I'll talk to you about something.
All right, awesome.
All right, sweet.
Thanks awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you soon, and I'll see you later.
Stay positive. And